Hello everyone. No X-Files this week. I'm very disappointed. In my defense, I had another cold. And frankly, this second therapist is kicking my ass. So as usual, when I don't have a topic researched, we're gonna talk about Harry Potter. So most of us die-hard Potterheads are aware of the theory that Dumbledore is actually Ron from the future who time-traveled back to Hogwarts at the time that Ron was at school. And of course, Joe Rowling says this theory is baseless and that they are not the same person in any way, and okay, fine. Let us have our fun, Joe. But this made me think of another idea that I haven't really heard anyone talk about. What if McGonagall is Hermione? Hear me out, okay? Hermione has a lot of traits in common with McGonagall. They're both very logical, very strict, very stern, very rigid and rule-oriented. They're both very into transfiguration. And then there's the whole animagus thing. In the first book, we see McGonagall transform into a cat. This isn't really brought up again very much after this, but the fact is that McGonagall can transform herself into a cat. Hermione also turns into a cat. Kind of. After the whole Polyjuice incident in her second year, she becomes a cat. There's a whole thing. It's a thing. So I kind of wonder if that botched transfiguration, that botched Polyjuice, would actually make it easier for someone to become an animagus. And we don't really know much about the process of how a person becomes an animagus. Maybe that's part of the process, is that you have to mess up Polyjuice potion so you always have a little bit of it in you. And then there's this whole issue of the Time Turner. McGonagall fights in the third book for Hermione to have access to a Time Turner. Now, that's kind of weird. This is one of the most powerful magical objects in that universe. So powerful, in fact, that Joe Rowling had to, retcon and kind of destroy them because they break the whole universe. And McGonagall fights for a 13-year-old student to have it. Why? What is her interest in this person? Because if I were McGonagall and I had just watched my favorite student, who clearly has some sort of affection towards me, transform into a cat as I do, I'd be more creeped out than encouraged to, enable her to do other crazy things. I think it's because she knows that she will need that Time Turner to get back to where she is now. I think this is a predestination paradox. Because we never really find out exactly what happens to Hermione's Time Turner. She says that she turns it in, but we never witnessed that. Maybe she held on to it and used it years later and brought herself back to the time so that she could properly educate Ron and Harry and herself on how to do what she's going to need to do in order to defeat Voldemort. I don't know, there's not a lot to go on here. I agree this is a pretty flimsy argument, but if we're willing to consider that Dumbledore might be Ron, honestly, Hermione being McGonagall isn't that much crazier. In fact, this makes more sense to me than the whole Ron Dumbledore thing. And I get it, Hermione was clearly written to aspire to be like McGonagall. It's not the same thing as actually being the same person. But what do we really know about McGonagall? And honestly, the nail in the coffin for me on this theory is, if anyone could pull off something like this, wouldn't it be Hermione? What if they're both time travelers from the future? What if Ron and Hermione, the couple, have some sort of incident with the Time Turner and end up back in time at the time that they're going to Hogwarts? Wouldn't they just go with it? I mean, it's not like you can go back unless you believe in Cursed Child being canon, which it's not. So maybe that's it. Maybe they're there to support Harry and themselves getting to be the people that will be able to defeat Voldemort. Maybe it was always going to happen. Maybe this is a time travel thing where this is the way that things must go. We've seen that that's how time travel seems to work in the Harry Potter universe. So I don't know, am I completely off my rocker here? What do you guys think? Put some comments down below, because I didn't do any research, and if you want to do it, I'm all about reading it, because this is an idea that had never occurred to me, and it's like, I wonder, maybe. I know that Joe said it's not a thing, but maybe. And that is all for this week. I'll be back again next week with another video that I hope you'll find interesting. Until then, stay curious and reread Harry Potter. It's amazing.